Hello, everybody, and welcome to another webinar with the Golden Shovel Agency. We have a ton of people today to check out an esteemed guest. We have brought in Cory Hepola, who is, I have to say, a very talented storyteller and an Emmy Award-winning broadcaster. And he's the creator of the My Town documentary series, which is just wrapping up its second season, about to get into the third season. We're just a treat. I don't know if you guys were able to catch the podcast that we did earlier in August, where we interviewed Cory about his storytelling approach and his experience with the series. It was a fantastic discussion and a very entertaining podcast, to say the least. And today is just the next follow-up for that. And this is really excited to see what you're going to have to share. So let me say just a couple housekeeping things. We are going to record this webinar. So afterwards, if you end up showing up late or I had to duck out early, don't worry, there'll be a full video recording for people to watch later on. And certainly we'll share other links and the like that Cory might bring up today during the discussion. I guess last thing I just want to say is that, like I mentioned, Cory is a very, I'd say, a master storyteller, and as certainly people familiar with Golden Shovel knows, that's what we do. We tell stories about these communities all across the country, highlighting why they're great for thriving businesses and talent to move there. Cory takes this right into the heart of rural communities and shows things that people just haven't seen before in some of these communities. And I'm just going to pass it on over without further ado. Welcome, Cory Hepola.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Aaron, and welcome. I hope everyone's having a great Wednesday here, and really just grateful and thankful to be a part of this this webinar today, and really thankful for Golden Shovel's mission, because it certainly aligns with my own. And so I hope and pray that everybody here today enjoys the hour, and then at the end is able to leave with not only feeling inspired and excited, but about where you live, but also come away with some pointers that hopefully can help you at home. I do have a presentation that will take us through everything. So let me get this going here. So I will pull that up now.
Sounds good. I'll jump off video, Cory, and I will I'll come back at the end to ask any questions that might come up. So feel free to put questions in, everybody. You can put them into the questions or chat box in Zoom. So, all right.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Aaron. I hope everyone can see this, but this, if anything else, I want you to leave today remembering that no matter where you're at, and I know we have people basically from across the country here today, no matter where you're from, whatever your small town, wherever you're at, whatever rural community or rural region, you have what everyone is searching for. Right now, millennials on down to Gen Zers, they want one thing. They want quality of life, and you offer that better than anyone else out there. So if you leave with nothing else today, just remember that you have what everyone is searching for, and that's something to be very, very proud of. So yes, my name is Cory. I grew up in a very small town in rural Minnesota. So Western Minnesota, a town of about 3,000 people. I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I was 8 years old. I told my parents at 8 that I was going to be a TV news anchor in Minneapolis. I legitimately had no backup plan. I went through basically elementary, middle school, high school with just that one thing in mind. I went off to college for that. Ended up getting my first job in Fargo-Moorhead. So not exactly small town, but in the scheme of things, I guess if you look at it globally, fairly rural in Fargo-Moorhead. But went to college there. Got involved in the broadcast journalism mass media program there, and got a job. Got a job in Fargo. First as an intern, they ended up hiring me back, and I thought, this is great. This is all I ever wanted to do. I was so excited. And I felt I had my life all planned out. I was going to work in Fargo and up until maybe I was good enough to be in Minneapolis. And then I always like to say that the Lord kind of pushed me out because I had this plan, but I ended up getting laid off with about 45 other people. at the TV station I was working for. Early days, our station was sold. We had a new ownership group and they came and cleaned house. And so I worked all through college and then graduated college without a job. Like, how does that work? But I had to start over and I applied and applied and applied. I applied to 150 different TV stations across the country until I got a second chance. And I'm forever grateful for that. Ended up in a small town, a rural community in Helena, Montana, and it was great. I loved every single minute of it. From there, 100 plus more resumes being sent out across the country. I ended up in another rural region in downstate New York, on the Pennsylvania border in Elmira, New York, and so worked out there. And I went to Rochester, New York, Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, and then 2015, a dream come true. I made it home. Made it home to Minnesota. Got to the number one station in Minneapolis at KARE 11, the NBC station, and I thought I would do that the rest of my life. That was my dream. This small town kid making it to the big city, and it's like what dreams are made of, right? And then, as can happen as we get a little bit older, at this point now I'm married and I have three little kids, and I started to have a new perspective on life. And a couple of things sort of happened. As I'm living in the big city, I would hear a lot of derogatory terms being used towards small towns. And I shouldn't even say derogatory, just misunderstandings. People would have these stereotypes of what it's like to be from a small town or live and work and play in a small town. And those things started to really stand out to me, because I'm proud of where I'm from. All my family's still back in my small hometown. And so I kind of felt like we needed to do something about it. And so 3 years ago, we set out to launch a documentary series that would basically break down the popular misconceptions with the rural lifestyle, showing the opportunities in our small towns. Here's a 1-minute trailer from our docu-series called My Town.
Hey, I'm Cory Hepola, and I grew up in a small town.
This road used to be gravel.
But a long time ago, I left to live in a big city. Now, I wonder,
just because we're small doesn't mean we can't have nice things.
what would it be like to move back?
Man, it's mad love up in here.
So, I'm traveling to 7 different rural communities across 4 states. Because what do I really know about rural living? The people.
If there is anything that you can say about this town, it's that we take care of each other.
The innovation.
So none of this equipment even existed.
And the opportunities.
It's like every year in the spring, there's always like a revitalization of just excitement.
This is my town.
Pull! Oh, jeez! You were close.
7 episodes. Fall 2024.
So that was our way of helping rural communities like yourself be able to tell their story, because we need to take the rural narrative into our own hands and reshape that rural narrative. So here's what I want to chat about today, and I'm going to organize this in the what, the why, and the how. Eventually, that'll lead to the big idea. So your community has a powerful story to tell. You have history in your community. You have culture. You have great schools. You have hospitals and healthcare. You have churches. You have small businesses. What you really have is opportunity in your rural communities. You have quality of life, and that is what everyone is searching for, that quality of life. Now, here's the problem. There are negative stereotypes that are associated with rural America. You have done nothing. This is not our fault. You have done nothing wrong. It's just a matter of fact. So we got to take this into our own hands and help reshape the rural narrative. So my question today is, how do we do that, right? How do we change that narrative? So I'm going to break this down into what, the why, the how, and that'll ultimately lead to the big idea. So the what. Okay, so what is the problem? There are these negative stereotypes associated with rural America, and you know what they are, right? You don't have to Google them to find out. You've heard them. Outsiders have probably said that about your community, right? Small towns are dying. There's nothing there for you. Everybody there is uneducated. They don't want to leave their hometown. All of these things are negative stereotypes that do not reflect the reality that is happening in your communities. And what this has done is this has led to popular misconceptions which are barriers to economic growth. Those are barriers to attracting that business. Those are barriers to attracting that youthful talent that in their hearts want to come home, but yet the national and global narrative is telling them, yeah, you can't do that. So, I mean, how many of you have actually heard that question before? Somebody said, well, why would you want to live there? Right? We've all heard that about our hometowns. Well, why would you want to live there? Why would anyone want to live there? Well, I grew up, as I mentioned, in rural Minnesota. I remember when I was little, my grandmother, and they were, very low income from a small community. But my grandmother in her small house, I would walk in the hallway, and I remember turning to her kitchen, and up on the wall, she had this bulletin board, right? And many of you, we still have a bulletin board at our house. I'm sure many of you do too. But I remember this bulletin board because when I was a kid, I would just stand there at the wall and read all of the newspaper clippings that were cut out from the weekly newspaper, cut out and posted on that bulletin board. And I would just stand there and kind of read them. And my grandmother at the time, she would come up to me and she would say, "Hey, Cory, just remember when you get older, you want to be in the paper for something good and not for something bad." Which we laughed about at the time. It became a family saying, and we joked about that. But as I got older and had left my hometown, that's something that really resonated with me. And I thought back to that memory. And I thought more critically about what my grandmother was doing. My grandmother, this is back in the, mid to late mid 90s, really. There was no social media. This was her way of expressing how she felt about her community. The newspaper articles that she was clipping out, it wasn't always of family or even friends. She was clipping out all the positive stories from her community each week and pinning them on that bulletin board so that anybody who walked in her house, that was her platform. Anybody who walked in her house knew exactly what she thought. She was proud of her town. She was proud of that local business that was starting up downtown. She was proud of the young kids moving home. She was proud of the high school. She was proud of her community, right? And that's what we have here. We have that community pride, and that was her platform to be able to share it to anybody that came to her house. But what I love about that is that oftentimes nationally, rural is never shown as a choice. So with my town and a lot of the work that we're doing, we want to reframe the rural narrative and really show it as a choice. Because yes, talented people are choosing this lifestyle every single day. And in my town, that's what we did. Here's a 2-minute clip from season 1 when we went to a small town in Wilmer and went on the farm.
This is where Laura and RJ belong. Their story is like the lyrics to a love song. They can't remember the first time they met because their parents were friends, so they've been friends since they were toddlers. But they never dated until they left for college when they realized their love. Today, they're raising 2 young daughters at home.
What's it like being a dad?
It's
2 little girls.
Yeah, I love it. Every minute of it. I always joke with Laura that I've accomplished my life goals. I've gone home and I've farmed with my family and created my own.
I feel kind of dumb. What did I call farming? Uncomplicated? And even worse, I've never taken the time to learn more about it or why people choose to do it. I mean, these people, they're brilliant and they're passionate and purposeful.
When you think about worship, you think about singing songs in church, right? And truly being out in nature, experiencing the miracle of birth with cows, that's a form of worship as well. And getting to see God's creation is so incredible, and it's humbling to us that we get to be a part of that.
Well, I'm praying we get these cows fed on time. Mind if I put my arm around you?
Go for it.
Look at that, they came right out.
Yeah, they knew it was dinner time.
Do you get stressed out?
Yeah, during calving, it's usually higher stress just because we're bringing new life into the world. So there's a lot of sleepless nights in March around here. But it's having Laura and the girls around, it definitely helps bring peace and reminds you why you're doing what you're doing.
You seem really happy.
I am happy.
You know, almost all of us will be blessed with a good meal today. And have we ever thought, how did that get here? It's thanks to the people in rural communities like Wilmer. This town is boldly innovating and collaborating to feed the world. And it's more than agriculture. It's the American dream. Whether it's a small business downtown or destination playground, this town's connectedness has created a sense of belonging for everyone. That's why they get stuff done here.
So that was near the end of episode 3 of season 1, but the main point there too is that there's power in the word choice. And so we need to reframe that rural message on choice, that yes, talented people are choosing this lifestyle. So that was the what, the why. Why is this happening? I mentioned that, you know, none of this is your fault or my fault. It's been a long-standing narrative about rural America that's really not based on any sort of data or anything. But the negative stereotypes are consistently played out in mainstream media. If you think about news programming, and I worked in news for a long time, and this is one of the things that became quite frustrating for me is being in a newsroom. They never want to go to a small town. They're not going to go to your small town for something good. Now, if you have a fire, or if there's a natural disaster, or if there's an untimely death, they'll be there, and they'll be there for days. Now, what that does is that portrays negative stereotypes to a mostly urban audience who only sees that community that one time and says, well, "Wait a second, I don't want to go there. I don't want to move there." Now, that's just a product of what news media is. So it's nobody's fault. It's just that's how a mostly urban audience is getting introduced to your community, is through something negative. Also, when you think about politics and politically what is happening, there certainly is a mandate, it feels like, from two parties to create this rural versus urban divide. So that is playing a factor into this too. The other part of this too, I would say, is that negativity, people just respond to differently than positive stuff. Like negativity is just juicier than the data I'm about to share, right? So none of this reflects what is actually happening in your rural communities. None of it. A brand new study by the University of Virginia. Young people are moving to rural counties at the highest rates that we've seen since at least the 1970s. Okay, I mean that's data, right? 77% of millennials and Gen Zers say their top priority is quality of life. So yes, these millennials on down, like 40 on down to, you know, basically 20, they want quality of life. They want to start a business. They want to be a community leader. They want to raise their kids in a safe, healthy environment where outdoors are premium, where there's good schools, where there's churches. You offer all of that better than anyone else. So how do we solve this problem? Okay, so this brings us to the how. How do we solve this problem? So working with my town over the past 2-3 years, just through my experience, successful communities really focus in on these 3 things. Number one, of course, is infrastructure. All of you certainly know that. Healthcare, housing, childcare, diverse economy, broadband, all of those really important things need to have those in place for people to really be excited about moving there. The other point here would be successful communities together develop a shared vision. And what I mean by that is oftentimes, whether it's within an organization or even just within a community, we end up in silos, right? We end up in silos and we're not cross communicating. And what those silos do is we end up working, we may share a mission, but then we're siloed up and we're just working on it on our own. Okay. Well, there's power in we, right? Together. So really in every community, but in smaller communities in particular, developing a shared vision. And what I mean by that is, you know, the EDA along with the city and the chamber and tourism, Lions clubs, all of those different, the school district, everybody is in the same battle. You're sharing a mission. So it's really important. Many of you probably do this already, but that's one thing that's been really evident through our work with my town is that successful communities really have that shared vision. They work their contacts, and that's what makes living in a small town so great, is that you build trustworthy relationships and you can work with each other, and that's really important too. The last thing I would say is, eliminate that limited language. And what I mean by a limited language is we cannot continue to say, well, if only that project had gone through. Well, back in the day when we had this, or if only we had gotten that thing, or I mean, we have to eliminate that language from our vocabulary. None of that matters today or even in the future. We are our community's biggest advocates. So if we are communicating positively about our community, others are going to see it that way. If we're communicating negatively about our community, that's the impression we're going to give off. So we really need to take pride in you basically having positive language that we are externally communicating to others. And then the last thing I would say too on that is that we can't wait for people to discover us. I know we have people from all over the country here. In the upper Midwest, and maybe where you're from too, but in the upper Midwest, I always say that we're humble, hardworking people, and we don't like to toot our own horn, right? I mean, we like to go about our daily job. We want people to see us and appreciate the value in our community, and that's awesome. But we can't sit back and wait for people to discover us anymore. We have to be able to own our own story. So that leads us to the big idea. We need to be able to proactively tell our authentic story. So I guess I'll start with a question on this. Do you guys have an elevator pitch for your community? So for instance, I can share about my hometown of Perham, Minnesota. Perham, Minnesota has 3,000 people in it. It's surrounded by more than 1,000 lakes. Elevator pitch. I got 10 seconds to tell someone where I'm from, okay? And I told them a little bit of what it's about. Oh, they get the idea that it's a small town, and oh my gosh, 1,000 lakes by that. Tell me more. Oh, okay. Well, guess what? There's also big business, a top-rated school, a top 100 healthcare system. All of these things make this small town community thrive. All of it together, that shared vision. But having an elevator pitch that you can say in 10 seconds or less that really promotes your community is incredibly important. And from there, there's really, kind of four parts of this in discovering your story. That elevator pitch being one of it, but that story. Okay, what is your story based off your elevator pitch? What is the story? Like, what is it that makes your community unique, distinct, awesome, right? And everybody has it. All of you have that. So one thing that we like to encourage is really, again, leaning in on that shared vision, developing a shared vision for the community. One thing would be, connecting across platforms and across organizations, researching, what the outside perspective is of your community, researching what people internally think are the positives, engaging with others, both externally and internally. And then, yes, getting valuable perspectives, different perspectives, not just your, the couple of best friends, but people who really reflect that town, who can give you a different perspective, and not just white noise on what we want to hear. We want to get down to the nuts and bolts, the real story of your community and what makes it distinct and unique. From there, creating a mission statement. We did that with my town. It was, hey, this is our mission. We're going to break down the popular misconceptions with the rural lifestyle. So, based on the research and in the engagement, start to formulate that mission statement on what you want to accomplish. Like, if we're going to go tell our story, what is it that you want to accomplish? Is it to recruit businesses? Is it to recruit young talent? Is it to retain businesses or retain talent? Is it to, grab visitors who have never been there? Or is it to grab repeat visitors? Is it to overcome a natural disaster that people only have that impression of your town and now you've made progress and you've moved on? All of those things are things to consider when you're building out your mission statement. From there, figuring out who your target audience is. Okay, so who is your target audience? You've got the mission statement. You've got now the target audience. We're after young businesses and talented young people. We want them to move back. We want them to put up their business downtown. Okay. Now figure out who's that target audience externally that we want to project and tell our story to. And now where are they? Which is a very complicated thing in today because there's so much noise and people are being drawn to this platform and engagement here and there. So it gets very complicated in trying to figure out where are people. And then lastly, I would say, how do we break through the noise? How do we break through the noise? Because yes, people are everywhere. They're also being, caught up in the dings and the buzzes all day long. How do we help tell our story and break through the noise? This is where I would encourage everybody. This is your opportunity to be creative. We don't have to continue to do only the things that have been done before us, right? This is the opportunity to get creative to tell your town story. And so there's a couple different ways that we look at this. One being commercial versus product placement. And I think you need to do both. And consistency is both. But let me just take a step back and share a little bit more about what I mean. So commercial, your tourism agencies should be pushing out, video content and, whatever else you want to push out on your community story. They should be. Now the audience perceives that as a commercial, right? Like if Explore Minnesota pushes out awesome things about, communities in Minnesota or going to the state parks or whatnot, that's great. They should. They need to continue to be consistent with that message. However, now the audience is going to see that a little bit differently because they're going to see Explore Minnesota and they go, oh, cool. I mean, they're supposed to do that. That's a commercial. Now you need to do it, but again, that's more of a commercial. So if your city is pushing out content, that's great. Do it. But just understand that the audience is going to interact and engage with it in a different level. Now take that versus product placement, where all of a sudden your community is profiled within, another agency or an influencer or whatnot. The audience is going to perceive that differently. They're going to hear the message. They're going to have someone else say, "Oh wow, this is an amazing place," and they're going to understand that a little bit differently. They're not going to be fully cognizant that they are being sold. Hey, you need to come here. You need to be living here. This is okay to do that. So a couple of examples of this, and I think are very creative. So where I grew up in Perham, Minnesota. So again, town of 3,000 in a county of about 55,000 people, more than 1,000 lakes. But Otter Tail County did something very, very unique. About 6-7 years ago, they hired someone to be their rural rebound coordinator. The county did. And what this guy does, his name is Eric, and he's incredibly talented, is he just consistently tells the county story, right? Started up a Facebook page for Otter Tail County, Otter Tail Lakes Country Association, and pushes out unique content every single day, consistently on, hey, quality of life, we got it here, meets with local businesses, and he's created a mascot, one being himself, but then another being the otter, and between the both of them, pushing out content every single day. And some of this content is, it's pictures, it's videos with interviews, it's totally unique to what I think has been going on. And they've received a ton of free media and awards for their unique creative outlook on it. So that's something that is more commercial based that they can do and really control the narrative. Now, product placement, what we're doing with my town is we are partnering with particular communities who are interested in having us profile them. We're working to break down the popular misconceptions with the rural lifestyle. I go in with basically the stereotypes in mind, saying like, I didn't know anything about this small town. I didn't know anything about Nebraska or Ohio or Kentucky or Texas. And guess what? I go in with my eyes wide open. And the audience goes through that with me. And by the end, they're going, why have I not been there? Much like a diners, drive-ins, and dives. They go, why have I not been to that restaurant? Why have I not been to that community? I need to star that, and we need to go check that out. So both is consistency, because consistency is key, and having both in place is key because we can't sit back and wait for people to discover us. So that was a long way on discovering our story. But now we're to the pitching the media aspect of this as well. Many of you have done so and probably successfully. Just some pointers because I get asked this a lot on, hey, you were in the media. Do you have any advice on how I get the media's attention? Here's what I can say. Modern newsrooms, they're asked to do less. There are less people working in these newsrooms, so they are looking for more content. They need more stories. So our goal is to make it easier for them. Our goal is to hand them something interesting, unique that they can say, oh, thank goodness this came across my desk today. It makes it easier because the newsrooms have fewer people in it. They're being asked to do more, not only from a job perspective, but they're doing more news programs. So, and also pushing out more content online. So let's make it easy for them, right? Let's tell them the story for them. So what we want to do there is create a timeliness. So always think before you send the media a story, the timeliness of it, urgency. Why today? Why are you sending this today? I can guarantee you can find a hook just about every single day, whether it's based off something that's happening regionally, locally, nationally, globally, or even finding a data point that says, hey, over the last 5 months, we've seen this. This is why this is important today. Well, you can create that timeliness, but being able to pitch the media on the timeliness, why today, create that urgency when you push out a press release on that. And that kind of goes along with the hook then. So I'm going to use an example here. I had, and this was just a friend, but a neighbor come up to me and say, hey, I'm opening up a new soccer location for youth soccer here, in this town, and really want to get some regional media, play, but nobody's answering any of my emails. Nobody's answering any of my pitches. I can't get anybody to bite. And let me take a look at it. Let me see it. And he had been very matter of fact in the press release. Hey, this new soccer thing is opening, this new deal, this. Well, I shared with him, hey, you were Mr. Soccer in Minnesota. So lean into that. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but you were Mr. Soccer Minnesota. All of a sudden, that jumps out. Mr. Soccer Minnesota back in 1999. And back in a day when soccer wasn't as big in this state, but he's been a proponent of soccer and really helped youth soccer grow. You got to lean into that. That's the story. And he rewrote the press release with leading with that and a couple other points at the top, got the media's attention and got a couple of TV stations and a print media out there to cover the opening of this brand new facility and program. So again, creating that hook, but also the timeliness of it too. Using different languages as a part of that as well. Words like keywords like only and first and top ranked, those really help stand out when you're pushing out a press release to the media. And then I would say too, equally as important is understand who you're targeting. I always take the time to research the reporters. Most places will have, in really small towns, everybody kind of does all of it. But if you can find out some of the reporters' interests or what they're really interested in or what they like, being able to build that connection locally. But if you're looking more regionally or even in bigger markets too, being able to research the right reporters. Many of them are on beats, whether that's small town or education or outdoors, whatever. But being able to figure out who those right reporters are. And so make sure you're sending it to the right person, because if you get it to the wrong person, they're just going to delete it. And then again, utilizing and building those relationships, and then make sure you personalize. Never make it seem like it is just being sent out to everybody, because that will immediately turn them off. They want to feel like, hey, they only sent it to me. That's really cool. So make sure you personalize it to that person. So a little bit more on the MyTown process. So what we do is we really partner with you to help tell your authentic story, if this is of interest to you. But I'll take it kind of through how we went about the mission, the target audience, the story, and the storytelling style. So, We built out, this was based on my experience. I'm a small town kid. I dreamed of living in the big city. And all of a sudden I got there, was turning 40, wife and 3 young kids, and thought, well, wait a second, why was I in such a hurry to leave my small hometown? Right. And I was seeing and hearing all these negative stereotypes about small towns. So we built the mission right away. We knew what we wanted to do. Our mission is to break down the popular misconceptions with the rural lifestyle, showing the opportunities in our small towns and the talented people who choose to live there. So we started there. We thought, okay, well, who is our target audience? Well, one, me, right? All of you are looking at, how do we get those boomerangs? The people who grew up here, they moved away for college. Now they want to come back. So how do we get those people? How do we get the people who may be thinking about rural, but just haven't gotten the push yet? So we broke it down and we found 4 different buckets, which I will say really encompasses everybody. But what we wanted to do, we wanted to create a series that spoke to these 4 target audiences. One being the rural by choicers, the people who grew up in a small town. They're very proud of where they came from, and they should be, and they have chosen to stay and live and work and play in your community. Chosen is the right word. They did not want to leave. They chose your town. The second being the boomerangs, the people like me who grew up there, they moved away, and they wanted to move back. So they moved back. The third bucket I would term, and I haven't heard anyone else use this, I kind of feel like maybe I've coined it, but rural curious. There are a lot of people who either grew up in a small town or are living in a big city now who feel they're feeling tired. We've seen the numbers since even the pandemic really rise of people choosing the rural lifestyle. But there are people now currently living in an urban city who are thinking, I'm tired of this runaround. I'm tired that my kids don't get to play 3 sports. I'm tired that I want to start that business. But yet society has told them they can't move back, that small towns are dying, that there's nothing there for them, that it would be, it would be like a Hallmark movie and moving back, right? Like the plot of a Hallmark movie. Hey, failed in the big city, so you got to move back home to your small town. So we want to speak to those people, the people who have it on their heart, but are being told you can't do it. So we speak to them and say, no, it's okay, go check it out. And then also we want to speak to the urbanites, the people who grew up in an urban area. They're never going to move to where you're at, but they need to know the truth. And they're interested in learning the truth. And maybe they come to visit someday and appreciate being educated on what it's truly like to live, work, and play in your community. So we figured that's our target audience. Where are they? Well, they're everywhere, right? They're YouTube. So that's where we created My Town. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And all of those audiences are different. There are people going to us for just YouTube on YouTube. There are people going to us just on Facebook, just on Instagram, and just on LinkedIn. So and important in figuring out who is where and understanding those audiences as well. And then how do we break through the noise, right? How do we break through that noise because people are being bothered all the time? Well, we knew that my story's, pretty unique. So we built it off that. 40 something, married, 3 young kids, grew up rural, but has been living in a city. And so that story is pretty unique. So now I go back and explore why was I in such a hurry to leave? Why didn't I truly appreciate these small towns and the small town living? Let me go meet with people who choose this lifestyle and they can educate me on it. Now the audience gets to go through that, whether they're from small town, it's a pride builder, or they're from a city and they say, wow, I had no idea it was like that. So we're really hitting all of those buckets. And then we thought, okay, how are you going to tell it? That's the style. How are you going to tell this from a storytelling style? People are dying for authenticity. They want authentic stories. So we knew that, and you've seen it over the last 5, 6, 7 years, but documentaries, podcasts, authentic stories are on the rise and have been. So we built out exactly that, a documentary series. This fall, we will have a total of 15 episodes across 5 states. We started our video podcast this summer. So we've got 6 episodes out now. We'll be up to 11 here in a few weeks. And then we also, as we're on location, we also shoot in another format in a minute-long reel that we push out as little sort of teasers on what's to come.
Look at this. Amazing. Guess where we are? This is Theodore Roosevelt National Park, just south of Watford City, North Dakota. And this small town has it all. Yes, look at this. Quality of life. You see the bike helmet here? We went mountain biking on the Matahay Trail. We saw bison right next to the road. They also got me on a horse as we went branding at a ranch. And then we got to explore the town. Top-notch facilities all over the place. The Rough Rider Center, the high school, the Bakken Area Skills Center, and of course, Mackenzie Health. This town truly has it all. And that's our mission with My Town, to discover these small towns. Everyone's looking for quality of life. Millennials and Gen Zers are after quality of life. And you know what? You can raise your kids here in this quality of life here in Western North Dakota. It's amazing. Filming now, season 2 of My Town episodes come out this fall. So make sure you subscribe for more small town success stories.
So we try to do them in different formats. So here's sort of our season 3 process. We will start with pre-production this fall, and in the winter, we'll build out a film schedule from there. The spring and summer of 2026, we will be filming brand new episodes, looking, to lock in with 7 or 8 different communities there. And then we start in with the promotion, reels and podcast episodes starting next summer in 2026. And then I'm in it right now, the post-production part, writing and in post-production now in the late summer and early fall. And then we start with the promotion, lots of promotion, including free media opportunities and whatnot in fall and winter 2026. Our episodes this year come out in November, but next year we're going to push them for a winter premiere in January 2027 for season 3. But when I talk about promotion, this is sort of the things that we can do. We build out events either locally. There's always an opportunity to build out theatrical premieres locally. And this is one that we held here where we had about 300 people come for the premiere of My Town last year.
I loved it. It was really great. It was just really inspiring. Very good.
Just got done watching the theatrical premiere of My Town Season 1 with Cory. Absolutely outstanding, exceeded our expectations.
You get in there so you get this position.
Are you happier today?
Oh gosh, yes.
Good.
See? We're okay.
Oh my gosh, it was so great. I cried and I smiled and I'm so proud of my community.
So that was season 1. We've been streaming for 10 months now. And it's been a lot of fun. We've got 10 months of streaming. We've crossed the 2.1 million views platform. We've got closing in on 19,000 hours watched. We've been streamed in 44 states and in 40 countries. So been just honestly such a blessing. We also just found out 2 days ago that we've been nominated for 4 Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Lifestyle Series, Outstanding Direction, Outstanding Director, Outstanding Host, and Outstanding Photographer as well. So really proud of that. Again, 15 towns across 6 states here. Season 2 will premiere November 2nd through December 21. So on that, you have what everyone is searching for, and it's going to take all of us. Together, we can change the rural narrative. So I know everyone's kind of asking, well, what, everyone has a story to tell. So what can we do? Like, what can we do about this? Let me just tell one quick story here. I don't know if all of you, at least up here, if you've heard of NDSU, North Dakota State University football. Now, they're not at like the Alabama level, right? They're one step below. But they've won 10 national championships in 14 years. And you want to know how they've won 10 national championships in 14 years? It's not because they have the absolute best football players in Fargo-Moorhead, Minnesota. It's because they go out and they recruit. And you know what they do? Their football coaches do? They go out and they tell everyone, hey, you need to come to this place. You need to come to NDSU in Fargo because, 1, we're going to win a national championship. But more importantly, you're going to grow as a leader. You're going to have opportunities. You may even go to the NFL, but you're going to be a part of a culture that really wants you to be here, and you're going to become the best version of you. They go out and they sell themselves, right? All of us, we need to take that advice. We need to be like a football coach. We need to be able to go and share our story confidently and recruit people and say, like, why aren't you living here? You got to come check this out. Because each and every one of your communities has a powerful story to tell. You've got history and culture and schools and hospitals, churches, small businesses. You've got opportunity right there. You have what everyone is searching for, and that is that quality of life. So let's go out, let's proactively tell our authentic story, and it is on us to change the rural narrative. Now, lastly, before we have questions here, and happy to take any sort of questions, as you've gathered, we have been greenlit for a season 3 in 2026. So we are now looking for new communities to partner with, to profile, to go through this 18-month process with, where we start with pre-production, we build out a film schedule, we come and promote you, we come to film, we do the post-production, we promote some more, and then ultimately the episodes get released, and we are your champion for life. So we are on the lookout. So I'm going to share one last 1-minute video. And I will say, if any of you, it doesn't matter where you're at right now, doesn't matter what state you're in, we have the ability to partner with you.
Amazing news, my town has been greenlit for a season 3, and we are searching for incredible communities to feature in 2026. Is your town proud of its history, its culture, or its entrepreneurial spirit? Do you have inspiring stories of growth, connection, or resilience? What unique attributes make your region a special place to live, work, and play? We're looking for towns that reflect the heart of America, where neighbors help neighbors, where businesses thrive, where communities come together, and where life moves at just the right pace. Here's how you apply. Email info@mytownseries.com to receive an application form, and then learn more about our production timeline and funding opportunities. And then the best part, tell us why your community is a phenomenal place to live, work, and play. All rural regions across all states are eligible. Deadline October 1st, 2025. You have what everyone is searching for. Let us know.
So I'm going to end on that. I'm happy to take any questions that you guys might have, and I will stop my share now and open it back up for questions.
Sounds wonderful. Hey, thank you. First of all, foremost, that was an excellent presentation, and excited. Congratulations on season 3. My understanding from a recent LinkedIn post, you have received additional Emmy awards that you're up for. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
There are some questions coming in, but before we hit those up, I wanted just to note that one of the reasons we were so excited to bring Cory in the My Town series is that Golden Shovel is going to be partnering with My Town on a couple of different ways. And on one hand, if your community is lucky enough to be picked for an upcoming season, then we're using our expertise to help keep that episode alive for a solid year. So we create social media and marketing to support it so that it'll continue to be called back and share that story as much as possible. If you're not able to get on to the upcoming season, then you can also come back to us, where we're happy to cover some stories, make video stories in your community that you can use for marketing on social media. And then hopefully you'll be able to make it into the season the following year. So either way, we're happy to support you, Cory, and be part of what you're up to in your mission. All right, so here's some questions. First and foremost, said if all your filming is in spring and fall for your episodes, what about in the winter, like Q1 and Q2, and where we struggle the most to convince people to visit or live here? What strategies would you recommend for winter, and do you plan to film in winter?
Great question. I really appreciate the question. I'll take the last one first. Do we plan to film in winter? Yes, we do. We did one episode in season 1. The community prioritized winter, and so we went in January. We got unlucky as it was the first winter in the history of the world to never have snow. And so, but we still did it. We pulled it off, and it was a great episode, and everyone was very proud of it. But yes, we absolutely will. And if that is a priority, then that's where we go, for you. And actually, we are shifting around the filming timeline just a little bit to be able to cater for that, whether that's a winter or a fall episode as well. That is something we're going to be doing here in 2026. So yes. Now, what strategies would you recommend for winter? I think the number one strategy would be don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid that people are scared of it. We need to show the uniqueness of winter, that we are not afraid of it, that there are things to do, that people come together. They don't just hibernate for 5-6 months out of the year. So that's probably the number one thing, is that no, it's not that bad. And that's one thing too, like growing up here and then leaving and moving back. Winters aren't that bad. They're not. Like you get used to them. You find fun things to do, outside or even inside too. And for one, I love the four seasons. So I think, being up here in the upper Midwest or wherever you're at, if you're in northern state, don't be afraid of winter. Just confidently tell your story. That's a part of it.
Sounds good. Thank you. There's been a request to provide the application URL in the chat, if possible. So if nothing else, we can certainly add that to an email that we send out with the video later. So
yeah, I can try to do that here.
Sounds good. The next question that came up is, are you working with communities on the coast that don't necessarily qualify as rural? And I guess maybe we could expand that. The first season was certainly in the Midwest. I think the second season was fairly Midwest centric, but what are your expectations and hopes as far as getting to other communities around the country?
Yep. We have the ability and the desire to go everywhere. So if you are on the coast, whether that's the East Coast or West Coast, we want to hear from you. Our goal is to continue to explore new communities and new states. And not obviously forgetting, the communities here in the upper Midwest either. This is home. But we want to explore and we want to promote and we want to help all of you. So, depending on the community and where you're at, I mean, I would say, we did a community here in season 2 that's in Nebraska. That community is 55,000 people. It's the third largest town in Nebraska. But Nebraska in and of itself is rural, right? When you think about the global audience that we have in different countries and people watching from all over the place, well, yeah, we've got, Nebraska in and of itself is rural. So, there are different ways that we can frame this under the small town or rural guise. But regardless, that's something we can work through with you, if interested.
Yeah, and I noticed, like in some cases where the community might be a little larger to be considered rural, that there's usually communities right on the outskirts of those that are rural that can certainly tie in the resources of the bigger community and be able to be part of that story.
Aaron, that's a great point. Another episode that we did with in season 2 here that'll come out in November is there's another community here in Minnesota that is about 55,000 people, and their EDA was like, hey, we really want to talk about would you be interested? And it was a perfect match because it's in central Minnesota. It's kind of overlooked oftentimes, and there's people that kind of have this wrong opinion of it. And so we were like, all right, well, yeah, but let's not title it that town. Let's focus in on a story that's, because they kind of do a little regional promotion. Let's focus in on a story that is, in one of the towns that's 15-20 minutes away. Then we can tie in that community as well and say, like, it's 20 minutes away from this, which has this, and we can even pull a story from that community as well. But titling it and figuring out the A1 story there was key, so that people aren't going, well, that's not rural. Well, that's not the point, right? Like, in the scheme of things, it is, but we're able to tell the authentic story through that strategy as well.
All right, sounds good. Okay, let's see. So there's a couple questions about that, just what qualifies rural. I think that, do you have a set number in mind as far as what might be rural or not, or is it a little loose?
It's a little loose. I would say that we can usually make it work if it's under, you know, the other thing too is like, you know, there's a community that approached us and they were like 55,000 and they were growing fast. And we talked about, well, one of the things that we could do is look, you weren't that big 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So you've become this story of like rural growth, right? Like, so we can explore why you've grown and why people have found you and why they want to move there too. So there's a number of different ways. I think more than anything, it's if we can just learn more a little bit about you, we can usually try to, figure out a strategy to help.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Well, I think we've gone through the questions and we're coming up to the end of the hour. So I'll just wrap up with, hey, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Congratulations on your success. We're all going to be anxious to watch season 2. And certainly, I know you've worked with some of Golden Shovel's clients, and we're just really pleased to see that. And we hope that you have a chance to work with many more. And I will look forward to seeing you coming up. So thanks again. And everybody will send the video out. So if somebody missed it or was wanted to share it with somebody else, you certainly can. So, or you can always go back to the Golden Shovel's website inside our resources area where we'll have the webinar also available. So, all right. Thank you so much. And thank you, Cory.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.